Hey guys, welcome back to our channel where we discuss and chit chat about all things affordable makeup. Today I have a quick tips video for you. I'm going to give you my top 6 tips on achieving flawless makeup with affordable products. I'm going to give you the tips as well as show you some of the products I use to achieve those tips. Now these tips I've kind of acquired most of them within the last year of trial and error, so I wanted to give you some tips. Maybe it can help you with your makeup application. Most of them is to do with your base makeup, so yeah, if you want to know some tips on how to get flawless makeup using affordable products, then keep on watching.
Okay.
So my first tip, I'm going to do it in the order that I do my face. So my first tip is for time saving purposes. Before I used to do my eyebrows first, and then I'll do my eyeshadow, then I'll do my base. I don't do that anymore because it was taking me a lot of time to do my makeup. Like this kind of makeup I have on today, I would spend like 2 hours on this makeup, but now I've cut it to literally half of that. I can do this makeup in 45 minutes to an hour. So and what helped me to cut the time to literally half was doing my foundation first. So when I first start my makeup, I put on my foundation. My favorite is the Can't Stop Won't Stop foundation from NYX. I love this foundation for my oily skin. It's perfect. This is my second bottle, so yeah, I use the shade Deep Espresso. But yeah, I do my foundation first, but I don't do the concealer and the base completely. I do the foundation first, and then I move on to my brows, and then my eyes, and then I go back to the base. So yeah, this tip is really, really good if you want to save some time. Do your base first so that you can kind of add everything on top of that base, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that is my number one. Do your base first, or your foundation first. Tip number 2 is with the setting of the under eye. So once I do my base and I do my eyes, I move on back to my my concealer and everything. And to set my concealer, before I used to do what everybody else does, which is put the concealer on and then put the setting powder or the translucent powder on top of that concealer. And I realized that my under eyes were still looking very, very dark sometimes. Like once I sweep the powder away, my under eye was still really dark, and I had to try and counteract that. So I had to figure out, okay, what was going wrong. So I now before I put my powder on, my setting powder, I actually put a skin tone color down first. I used the matte base powder from Revolution. This is in the shade I use for my under eye, the shade P17. So this is a matte powder, and as you can see, this color is very red. So for my skin tone, I actually use the P16 for my face, which is actually darker than the P17, and I put the P17 under my eyes. So this helps to kind of set the concealer before I actually bake. So if you're finding that you're going straight from concealer to setting powder, so I use the what's this called? The baking powder, the Revolution baking powder. I use Banana Deep. So this is the Banana Deep shade. I use that as my setting or my baking powder. But before I use this, I go in with this. So I set my my concealer with the P17 matte base powder and this Revolution brush. So I like this brush because it's very flat on both sides, so it gets really under the eye really well. So you see it fits really nicely under my eye. So I set it first just so that I can set the concealer into place. So when I put this powder on top and sweep it away, it doesn't leave like dark patches. So if you're finding that you're still getting dark under eyes when you do your concealer, try this trick, obviously for the shade that works for you, and let me know if it works out. So that's tip number 2, is setting my concealer before I bake my concealer. Tip number 3 is with the setting powder. I don't always do this, but I realize that it helps me, especially if you have oily skin, to set your makeup as you go. I think some of you might already know this trick, but I put my setting powder before I put my foundation, I put it, you know, after I put my foundation, I also put it at the end. So it's almost like I'm setting every stage. I'm kind of creating a barrier every stage to stop the oils from coming through. So if you find that you're getting oily very quickly, then I would suggest you set your face kind of 3 times during your base process, and it also helps the products to kind of sink in, to lie down properly, to look flawless. So yeah, I would really advise this tip if you're first of all oily, or you're finding that your product is kind of sitting on top of your skin. Set it as you go. You can either use a matte setting spray if you are oily, or you can use a dewy one if you are dry. So that is tip number 3, using your setting spray throughout the makeup process. Tip number 4 is after I've finished baking, I actually like to use a baking powder or like a bronzer to pat under my eyes. Now this I learned from a colleague I used to work with a couple of years ago, again to try and counteract the darkness that I used to experience under my eyes when I finished my makeup. And she told me that she uses like a kind of like a very sheer, so this one is from Revolution. This is from the I think it was the chocolate heart. They had this chocolate heart highlighter for the face, so it's like a bronzer, but for my skin, oh lord, see, for my skin tone this is perfect. So you want something that's not too shimmery, it's more of a sheen. So I'm going to try and swatch it. It's like a powder sheen. You see, it's almost matte, but it's got a little bit of, yeah, it's got a little bit of sheen on it. So when you pat it under your eye, it really gives it that bright effect. So yeah, these kind of Revolution baked hearts are really good for that. So if you can find one that is not shimmery, it doesn't have no shimmer particles, it's basically like a sheen highlighter, use that for your under eye, or any highlighter that doesn't have glitters in it, that is more of a sheen, use that for your under eyes and you will get really bright under eyes. So that is my tip number 4. Use a highlighter under your eyes to help you to brighten them. Tip number 5 is to do with lashes. Okay, so with my lashes, my eyes are really small, so sometimes it's really hard. Actually, most times it was really hard for me to get my lashes to stick to my eyes, especially in the inner corners. And I found this trick just today, or I tried it out just today. So I take my eyelash glue, I put it onto my lashes, my fake lashes, and then I put a little bit of the lash glue into my inner and outer corners of my actual eyes. So without the lashes on, it's like on my lash line, I put a little bit here, a little bit there, and then once it's kind of tacky, I stick it, and it worked like a charm. Like, it's literally stuck so easily on today that all my inner corners are stuck on really well, and I'm going to use that tip from going forward, because it was not working out for me just trying to put it on the strip lash and put the lash on. My inner corners will never stick, but this trick I tried today and it stuck perfectly. So if you're struggling to get your eyelashes on, especially if you have my kind of eye shape which kind of slants in like this, and it's hard to get into the inner corners, put a tiny bit of glue on the lash line here and the lash line on the outer corners, and obviously on your strip lash as well, and then when you come to stick it, it will stick much better. So that's my tip number 5. So tip number 6, which is our last tip, it's a tip that I should have said number 2 actually, but let's do it now. It's how I put on my concealer. Now again, like the number 1 struggle I've had with getting flawless makeup is setting or getting my under eyes to look bright. So I take this brush that I got from a Morphe set. It's a tiny brush like this. Sorry, it's a bit dirty. I've used it today. And I take my concealer and I put my put my brush into, I put my concealer out and I put my brush into it, and then I tap it. So to get the best coverage, I tap. So do a tapping motion, and I feel like I feel like brushes gives you better coverage than sponges. That's what I found. So if you're finding that you're doing what everybody else does on YouTube, or all the influencers, they use brushes, they use sponges like the beauty blender and everything, and you're finding that it's not working out for you, try a brush, dip it in, and do kind of like a tapping motion, just like this. Just tap and then look up and tap, 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 tap. And that will really help you to distribute your concealer more evenly and give you a better and fuller coverage. So yeah, that is my tip number 6. Use a concealer, a dense concealer brush that fits really nicely under your eyes, and then do the tapping motion. Don't rub it in, tap it in. So yeah, that is my tip number 6. And a bonus tip. Yay, let's do a bonus tip. My bonus tip is to look forward. Okay, so a lot of people, they try to do makeup with a mirror. Where's my mirror? Let's pretend this is my mirror. So they try to do the makeup with their mirror like this, and then they look into the mirror and then they do your makeup, which is good. You can switch it up. But I would suggest, if you have a vanity, sit straight forward on your vanity and kind of switch between your handheld and the vanity, so that you can get, especially your base, so that you can look into it and see that everything is done properly. So because if you're looking into this, you are in something small, you're just looking like, you're concentrating on a very small part of your face. But if you're looking into a whole vanity, you can see your whole face, you can see where you're putting the product, you can see if it's blending properly. So I try to sit upright, look into my vanity, and then tap my conditioner tap my concealer, tap my foundation, look as I go, see my whole face. And then for detailed work, I look into my small mirror and then I do my detailed eye work or whatever. But I kind of switch between looking to do my details and then looking into a mirror to see my full face, so that I can get a flawless, even, look. Almost like you are a makeup artist, you will look at the client's whole face and not just, at a small part. So kind of try and do that with your own face. Look in the mirror and kind of, have a full focus and a full view of your face. So that's my tips, guys. My 6+1 tip on how to get flawless makeup using affordable makeup. I don't use anything high-end in my collection, like even foundation. As I said, I love the NYX. I have a Kat Von D more expensive foundation I don't actually like more than the NYX. So yeah, everything I use is very affordable. Most of the products are from Revolution. I will try and list the products that I use below so that you can find them on the websites. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know any tips that you have that can help me or anybody else in our community to do their makeup more flawlessly, and any of your favorite affordable products as well. Leave it below. And until next time, hit the notification bell and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.